Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bet the Edge. Thanks for watching on our NBC Sports YouTube channel. It's the Well Capper of V-Money Sports because it's Thursday, and we're going to be covering a lot of props today in the NFL, talking some NBA futures MVP market, Drew, after Jokic and Embiid went to war. And then we're also going to be talking about a little highest, lowest scoring teams in the NFL divisional round, trying to make some more money. How was your NFL Super Wild Card weekend, and how was your week in general, man?
It was awesome. I didn't hit the lotto ticket play. I was looking to retire, but that's okay. The outcomes were
Keep
exactly what I
fighting.
was hoping for. We'll get it next week, I guess. But no, everything pretty much broke for me except for them moving the Bills Steelers game out of the blizzard. That really kind of hurt the Steelers, I thought.
Yeah.
But all that said, I really, really am happy with these matchups. There's so much to talk about, so many angles, so many fun ways to break these down. And today we get to do it in a kind of a fun little, what do you call it, off-speed pitch sort of way, where we get to talk about some of these kind of exotic markets, which are fun.
Yeah, and I thought our, Matt McGrath's last week with the rushing, passing, receiving yards leaders was definitely interesting. And we had some good takes, had some bad takes. I had a terrible take, Drew, throw it out there. I said I'd probably stay away from Rasheed Rice. The weather, there's a lot of factors, and 14-1, and now he's sitting a lot pretty. So hopefully we could get some value this week and try and keep everyone going here. So let's talk about some of the markets with the highest scoring teams in the divisional round because we saw, the Packers exploded last week. The Lions looked amazing in the first half, and they kind of just melted in the second half there. Didn't cover. I'm not going to hold it against them. But we look at the Niners, Drew. Ravens, they're leading the pack here, plus 190, plus 330 to be the highest scoring team. Would you be willing to take a shot on someone else, though?
Boy, this one's tough. The most likely teams for me to get to 30 points are about equal, and it's the Niners and Lions.
I knew it. Yeah, I agree.
The Lions we can talk about first. Just in general, their offense fits exactly perfect puzzle piece into whole tight squeeze. They're going to score 30 points. The Buccaneers defense and their style of defense, their scheme, all of it kind of lends itself to creating one-on-one matchups between elite skill position players for the Lions and questionable coverage from the Bucks. So the Bucks having explosive plays, having kind of the ability to matriculate drives with some outstanding running off tackle, all of it like spells trouble for me for how the Buccaneers are going to force punts in this one. And you don't really need to break down Niners Packers all that in detail. Like Shanahan's
Nah.
scheme is God mode, and he's up against Joe Barry, who's kind of shown to have some huge limitations with kind of coming up with ways to stop elite offenses. So very realistic to expect that it's going to be tough for the Packers defense is Jekyll and Hyde. Like they were amazing last week at times. Is that same unit showing up? Who knows? So definitely there is scope, I think, for the Niners to get into that range as well. I don't see any of the AFC teams all that likely to threaten 30, which means we probably are, if we're looking for a long shot, dare we look at the Packers? I think Bucks. I'm not really interested in expecting the Bucks to go bananas, but the Packers, hey, they're up against a Niners defense that can generate pass rush, but they can pass pro. They're up against the Niners defense that's hurt in the secondary, and they have a bunch of weapons, and it's not obvious exactly who they're going to use on any given day, so you can't really game plan for them. Aaron Jones looks like he has some fresh legs, and Jordan Love is cooking. Matt LaFleur's scheming has been amazing. Matt LaFleur has shown an interest and an ability to keep his foot on the gas, even in a win. So all that said, going for the fences on Packers prices is fun to me. But ultimately, I think it's probably just going to be the Lions or the Niners. Where's your head on this one?
Yeah, Green Bay at 15-1 is definitely tempting, but I know when to sell high and get off a train, and I'm going to go ahead and do that with the Packers, Drew.
Okay.
And I wanted to bring this up with you because we always learn more at the end of the season than we know at the beginning of the season. That's just natural, right? But the NFC East was bad. The Eagles and the Cowboys getting knocked out in the first round. We bragged about how the Cowboys hung tough with the Eagles when they played them and looked great at points. But we didn't mention how bad the Eagles looked weeks 1, 2, 3, 4. They didn't look like themselves early in the season with the passing offense, with the turnovers. So, Tampa Bay winning that game just seemed like the right side the entire time. And at 12-1, maybe they're more tempting to me than Green Bay because I feel like them and Detroit can get into a track meet, and that's kind of reflected. And you mentioned the AFC having no faith. The NFC totals are higher, 50.5 in the Niners game, 48.5 in the Lions game. Then we got 45.5 and 44 in the two AFC games. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think the Lions are the best value play here at plus 350. I ran their first quarter team total over 6.5 last week, Drew.
Cool.
And I'm probably going to run it back this week because the home games for the Lions for the playoffs now, we've seen what it's like. Lose yourself, Eminem. Yeah, I want parts of that. I know it's going to be exciting, but I expect the Niners to move the ball too. So I'm actually in exact agreement with the best two bets, but I'd say Bucks would be my better long shot. It's not as easy, though, talking about the lowest scoring teams in the divisional round. I mean, Texans, Packers, Bucks, Chiefs, then Bills. That's interesting to me that the Chiefs are plus 500 in this market and the Bills are plus 1,000, 10-1. That would tell you the Bills are probably the right side here, but that might be looking into this market a little too deeply.
Yeah, I think you pretty clearly put a line right through Texans and Packers. And the reason is, even if we're wrong, if it's not a competitive game, there's a chance that the entire second half they're at a huge negative game state, right? At which point, like garbage time points, does that create a kind of situation like you don't have to go super far back in history. Who was the top passer last week? It was Dak Prescott. Why? Because he was down by 1 million points. The fact that there were 20. What did they end up with? 28 or 32 even? Yeah, 32 points for the Cowboys last week. Like they made their team total over. Even though they were like an absolute no business getting there, but it got there. So it's definitely, to me at least, an easy to scratch those two, just because yeah. If you think those games aren't going to be competitive, then there's going to be some opportunity for some garbage time scoring. So that kind of leaves us with the games we think are going to be lower scoring that are going to be a little closer, and that's really just Bills Chiefs because I think it's. I guess maybe if you want to try to make the case that the Buccaneers in a negative game state, you have a little bit of Baker Mayfield going YOLO and throwing some picks and keeping them off the scoreboard. I mean, maybe that happens, sure. So Buccaneers at plus 450 is not wild, but the Chiefs and the Bills at plus 500 and 10-1 are the two that I would circle. And it's crazy because we are 2 years removed from this game, this round ending 42-36. Was that the final? I think it was 42-36. That's these two offenses, two of the best quarterbacks in the game. Surely they're capable of just ripping the lid off this thing. But I'm going to kind of single out the Bills here, and I'm going to say that offense is not the same unit that was lighting teams up a couple years ago, and they're facing what I think is the healthiest and maybe the best defense going outside of the Ravens, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Steve Spagnuolo is cooking right now. This unit is elite at multiple levels of the field. They are not out especially good at run stop, but if you're going to let the Bills kind of run themselves out of this game, that's fine. Like I think you can absolutely shorten this game and still win. And speaking of shortening the game and still winning, Vaughn, you may have noticed or picked up on a tendency of what second half game states are like if the Chiefs have a lead. If you need me to fill you in, because you haven't been paying attention, they are very low scoring. They are very low scoring, and the reason is pretty straightforward. Why? Andy Reid has an outstanding philosophy where, with a lead, he just wipes out the clock. Pat Mahomes is perfectly fine kind of dialing it in, not going for the explosive plays. We just wasted 2 downs running into a cloud of dirt. It's 3rd and 10. All right, fine, I'll scramble for 11. Right? Like they have a very kind of meticulous way of really kind of making their second half time of possession count when they have a lead. And so I think ultimately expecting that type of a game state, if you have a Chiefs lead and then that leading to the Bills ending up in, say, the sub 17 point range is not crazy. And the fact that they are 10-1, I think that's the only real bet I could advocate for. Do you have a strong disagree?
I like that opinion a lot. The Chiefs and the Bengals are the two most profitable second half under teams. the past 2 years of the NFL. And I'd probably say those are the two most effective teams in the second half, too, with their schemes, especially when they have a lead. So that makes a lot of sense. I would wipe the Texans away as well right off the bat. Ravens, more than anything, if they're winning by 14, 10, 17 points, we'll let you score a touchdown in the fourth quarter. And that may be enough for the Texans to beat somebody like the Chiefs or Bills, who only managed 19 to 22 points in a loss in that game. So I'm actually with you. I would split my money on the Chiefs and Bills, but the hilarious aspect to me is saying how I said the shot team I would take a shot on for the highest scoring team is the Bucks. I would also take a shot on them for the lowest scoring team because that is where they're at with Baker Mayfield. You would agree? Like they can put up 10 or they can put up 28.
That's not crazy.
So, it depends on what the Lions pass rush is going to look like. Rachaad White last week had 74 rushing yards, I believe, something like that, hit his over. That was something I was looking at going under on potentially. I'm not sure how he looks against Detroit's front seven. They're an aggressive bunch that can let up some big plays here or there. But we'll have some props in that game I'll talk about because I might have like 3 bets in the Lions game, Drew. But
old enough to remember. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember the Bucks scoring 9 points in their last road game.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, Carolina. I mean, yeah, man. Baker Mayfield, they're counting him out. We're not counting him out. He could be the highest scoring team or the lowest scoring team. Give us something, Baker, something to ride home with. Let's talk about some props, Drew. I want to talk about the Ravens-Texans game first. And I have a play in this game I'd like to run by you and see what you have going on here because Lamar Jackson, to me, is being a little disrespected in this market. Okay. Over under 1.5 passing touchdowns, plus 100 for the over on Lamar. Yes, this is the lowest total game on the board at 44, but have we not seen a revelation this year from Lamar Jackson throwing the football accuracy-wise, especially with all the injury-riddled offensive linemen, tight ends, receivers, running backs? He's done it all this year, career highs across the board. The Texans do lead the NFL with only 1 passing touchdown allowed per game. But I'm willing to go to war and say over 1.5 for Lamar Jackson, who's hit the under in 3 straight playoff games.
Ooh, okay. I'm mixed feelings here. I don't want to get hurt believing in Lamar in the playoffs until I see it with my eyes. I'm not calling. Look, I'm not calling for another stinker. Like I want him to put together a clean. Like this is a great team. This was the late blooming offense. This was one of the most. It was probably the most impressive offense in the fourth quarter of the NFL this year. Go back to their game against the Rams. Every time they needed something special, Lamar found another gear. You look at what they did, in against the Miami Dolphins. People doubted that team that day, myself included, and they hung infinity points on the Dolphins. So it's definitely there's definitely scope for Lamar to succeed with how well he's played this year and how well he's playing within the framework of Todd Monken's offense. And honestly, expecting Mark Andrews' return. It wouldn't be shocking. Zay Flowers has already said, even though he's missing practice time, he has said he is going to play. So you're effectively going to have a full strength offensive unit at potentially, and it's probably going to have to get going through the air because the Texans' run stop is quite good. So I would say that if you're going to play anything, Lamar over. But I also am going to. I'm treading extremely lightly around the Ravens until they kind of prove that they have that special gear. Because, like, if we're being honest, among all 8 quarterbacks who are in the playoffs right now, he's the one that's shown us the least when it comes to playoff excellence. And among all of these teams who have had recent playoff, experience, the Ravens just in general have let me down so many times in the last handful of years. So, I'll believe it and I'll be delighted when I see it, but I'm not going to, put myself in harm's way until.
I understand. It's an interesting game in line in general because we got the Ravens sitting at 9.5, which is really what the original spread of the week 1 matchup between the Ravens and Texans was. And we know Harbaugh is a week 1 against the spread monster. So it was no surprise we saw the Ravens win and cover that game. But what I will say is we've seen a lot happen between the 2 teams since then. And CJ Stroud and Houston are amazing. Like I wouldn't be scared to take a ticket of plus 10 on them here, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But I do feel like, not saying that you are, but a lot of people are doubting Lamar Jackson, what he's been capable of. And I think that he's going to show it here, man. The rust could be a factor in the first quarter. We might be getting a lot of value on Baltimore if Houston gets out to a lead early. But I actually think Lamar Jackson will create a lot in his own. And only 3 teams held him under this that made the playoffs this year. Steelers and Browns, of course, naturally, AFC North, and the Texans. He didn't throw a touchdown against the Texans, Drew. He's throwing at least 2 against them on Saturday. So I'm excited for that one. And we're still getting plus money, like I said. Disrespect to the MVP. We won't stand for it. Packers-Niners, before I give you 2 props, is there anything you already play in this game or circled?
I took a little shot on the Pack.
Yeah. Are you feeling confident in it?
No. No. Least confident game of the week for me for sure. And honestly, I split my stake between Packers and the points and Packers on the money line because I kind of feel like if they don't get into a positive game state like they did against Dallas, young team like that, if things aren't going right, this could get out of hand the other way. So yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I didn't really know how to approach this because I don't want to be laying double digits with any teams in the playoffs, but I certainly don't want to take Jordan Love back-to-back weeks. Last week I took them live, and I had a very strong inkling that they should not have been 7.5-point underdogs. Like that might have been a laughable line. Looking back on it, obviously was. But I felt the prop market was much safer in this game. So I got 2 for you, and they're both running backs. Christian McCaffrey, the value is already starting to disappear. I gave this out earlier in the week, multiple places, over 88.5 rushing yards, up to 91.5. He has gone for over 90 in more than half his games this year. As we spoke about last week, Drew, he was also the favorite at plus 185 to lead the postseason in rushing. Aaron Jones had his amazing game with over 130 yards against Dallas. And as you mentioned earlier about how his legs have come back to life, 4 straight games of 100 yards for Aaron Jones. I'm going under 71.5 for Aaron Jones. I'm selling at the highest point possible because the Niners held guys like Tony Pollard, Kenneth Walker, Miles Sanders, Gainwell, all these guys well under this number last year in the postseason. We do have to remind ourselves that the Niners defense is for real and off a bye week. And Aaron Jones ran against Dallas, the Chicago Bears, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Carolina Panthers in those 4 games of 100-plus yards. Niners are going to be licking the chops if they're running on first and second down, Drew. So, I like CMC over against a Green Bay defense that let up 128 rushing yards per game, 5th worst in the NFL. And I'm selling high on Aaron Jones at his best part of the season so far.
Okay. Well, for what it's worth, if you want to try to dig into what has Shanahan done when he's gone up against a Joe Barry scheme defense, he has leaned into the run. You go back to their playoff appearance 2 years ago. It was in Green Bay. It was very, very cold. And you had 29 rush attempts from San Francisco in that game, despite being at a negative game state for most of the game. They also, you'll remember they got ahead with 4 minutes to go in the 4th quarter with the blocked punt return. Only touchdown they scored all game, but they did have success on the ground with 29 rush attempts for 106 yards. You go back even further. One game prior was a regular season game. You go back further to their other postseason win against the Packers, which of course came in 2020. This stat line is kind of impossible. They had 42 rush attempts in that game, Vaughn, for 285 yards and 4 touchdowns. That was one of the most outrageously successful rushing offenses we've ever seen in any playoff game. And of course, it happened at the hands of the Packers by Kyle Shanahan. So, there's definitely evidence that points to that's what they want to do. And honestly, the fact that this could get to a negative game state for the Green Bay Packers, which would take Aaron Jones a little bit out of the rushing offense, makes sense for both your looks.
Yeah, agreed. And, didn't the Niners have some quarterback issues last season in the playoffs or something? So they'll have to run the ball a little more this time around.
That's not crazy. Protect Brock Purdy at all costs. Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, certainly. I want to see Brock Purdy playing football longer. I want to see him in the postseason. We don't want to see any more blowouts, True. And Lions and Bucks, as we mentioned, definitely a high volatile game. Looks like I might have 2 or 3 bets in this. So I'm going to just run 3 by you. Let me know what you think or which one's your favorite. because I'm going to run it back. I'm pretty sure with the Lions first quarter team total over 6.5. If they get the ball first, please play Eminem. Don't lose yourself again. They're going right down the field. Jahmyr Gibbs over 24.5 receiving yards, 23.5 on MGM. It's something that I'm considering because he had 43 last game, but the rushing and receiving may be a better angle with him because of that ground attack, and he can bust a big one. But Jared Goff almost hit his under in the last game at 269.5. They're rolling around with a 261 to 269.5 again this time around. And I'm feeling like they're going to have to throw a little more against Tampa Bay Bucks here than they did against the Rams. So what do you like and what don't you like out of what I just said?
I mean, you kind of have to pick your poison here if you're Tampa. There's so many players that can really hurt you.
So many weapons.
So many. And I mean, what I know about Todd Bowles' scheme is that he's going to be blitz heavy. He's going to put his cornerbacks on islands, and that's going to create an opportunity for Ben Johnson to kind of pick his weapon, right? Like pick how you want to die. Okay, we'll take that. Okay, we can kill you whichever way we want. Okay, we'll kill you with that. This is definitely tricky to kind of pinpoint exactly who and where they will ultimately attack. And part of the reason is that there's lots of soft spots in the Tampa Bay secondary. So I would guess Laporta with another week of kind of rest and practice. Apparently no setbacks with him playing last week, so he's good to go. And he's a dynamic. His biggest impact and really where they were pressing on him was in the red zone, right? So I don't know that he's going to have lots of volume through the middle of the field, but maybe more just important to have him on the field when they are in the red zone. And similarly, I think that kind of makes Amon-Ra St. Brown and maybe even Jameson Williams to that degree, because
he looked good last week. He got some touches, and he's getting confidence.
Yeah, he looked good last week, and you know who had no problem creating easy separation downfield against this Buccaneers defense? Devontae Smith. And they are, if you wanted to pick kind of a similar skill set and a similar build and a similar approach to the game, another Alabama receiver and Jameson Williamson having some success in this contest makes total sense to me. So I think ultimately there's going to be a lot of success through the air for the Lions, and then everything else is kind of a little bit of a guess in terms of who's going to benefit. But that's probably the most fun prop game because again, it's indoors. There's controlled environment, and you could have some fireworks scoring in that one.
Certainly, yeah. It was hard to try and find who not to like on the Lions side offensively. I felt like because Amon-Ra St. Brown is easily 1-2. Talked about him last week to lead the postseason 7-1 in receiving, and he had a fantastic round one in the NFL postseason. So let's hope he can overcome Rashee Rice for us and cash that. But I'll likely be on maybe a little St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown parlay or something like that, Drew, heading into that game. Let's talk about Chiefs and Bills. Rashee Rice, I said 130 yards on 8 of 12 against Miami, but that's not where I'm going with my prop, my friend. I am sadly going chalk here and going with Travis Kelce over 61.5 receiving yards. Actually, 8 yards lower than Rashee Rice, which is pretty insane in a postseason game. But one thing I did notice watching the Steelers and the Bills game, all of Pittsburgh's offensive success through the air, especially with the tight end Pat Freiermuth, was in the middle of the field. Buffalo ran a lot of zone coverage as well. Freiermuth finished with 5 receptions, 8 targets, 76 yards. Kelce had 7 for 71 on 10 targets against Miami. If you're talking about those 3rd and 10s earlier with Mahomes scrambling for 11, he might not have to scramble if he's got eye-to-eye connection with Kelce and they can improvise in the middle of the field. So I think when the Chiefs have success through the air, it's going to be in the middle against Buffalo. So that's why I like Kelce to go over 61 yards in this game.
I dig that. I'm perfectly with you there. The Bills have injuries at the second level that are meaningful.
They had a lot of injuries in the second half of that game.
Yeah, Bernard and Dotson. Although Dotson surprisingly was a limited participant in practice today, so maybe he will play. It seemed to me like they were going to be down to replacement level linebackers, which was really going to hurt that unit overall, and it still may. And if you're facing the Bills with replacement level linebackers, then you're going to get a healthy dose of the screen game. You're going to get a lot of Travis Kelce targets. You're going to get a healthy amount of Isaiah Pacheco trying to attack you at the second level. And you're going to get a lot of Mahomes scrambling. I think expecting there to be explosive pass plays over the top is not likely for the Chiefs in this contest. And so, yeah, I think, I would kind of be leaning into like some real weird ones like Jerick McKinnon receiving yards, Jerick McKinnon receptions, like find some weird stuff that really would kind of lean into what the Chiefs are going to do in their screen game. If Rashee Rice has a big game, it's probably going to be like shorter targets that he has massive yak on. And honestly, the way that the Bills are so disciplined in their secondary with their and how good their tackling is from their cornerbacks and their safeties, I can't really see it happening. So I think the Chiefs are going to have to get it done by crossing the street 100 times. And I think they can do it. But I also think that kind of lends itself into the less explosive and higher efficiency plays.
Yeah, certainly. You're gonna have to play chess, not checkers, in Buffalo and Kansas City. It's gonna be arguably the game of the weekend. But I think the fireworks in Detroit is gonna be something worth watching. And fun fact, Drew, that's on NBC and Peacock if you didn't
All
know.
right.
Yeah, baby. The Lions are looking to continue their storybook season, and they can advance the NFC Championship with a win over Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. Coverage of the divisional round matchups in Detroit begins at 2 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Got a lot of plays in that game. Who would have thought if you told a fan of the Detroit Lions to start the season, Drew, all you got to do is beat Baker Mayfield and you're in the NFC Championship, these guys would literally be throwing a party. So Baker Mayfield, the most counted out, enter this
Yeah.
week. You got to tune into NBC and Peacock to watch that one. I cannot wait to see it. If you didn't see the Battle of the Titans, we're talking about the Joker and Embiid, aka MVP. They battled it out. Sixers won. Philadelphia got the 5-point victory. Joel Embiid had 41 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, Drew. But he's still behind Nikola Jokic in the MVP department in the race. Plus 250 for the Joker, plus 275 for Joel Embiid. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander continues to climb the charts, sitting at plus 300 after a stinker against the Clippers. Doesn't matter, apparently. Any opinion on the top 3 leaderboard? Are you going down the list?
Boy.
Tough. This is a tough race.
This is a tough one. I have a good amount of Jokic in pocket at worse prices. So obviously I don't feel great about seeing him swoon like this. A ton of it is lack of team success recently that I think is impacting this because he's never going to put together a flat out box kick score statistical profile that really blows you away. Whereas Embiid can't. Like he'll score 50 from time to time and be like he'll put some wow moments on his game log. Whereas Jokic is much more of a facilitator of the offense. And so he has a little bit tougher path there. And he also has a tougher path because people are going to hold this Nuggets season up against last year. And if it's not obvious or perceived that they're contenders the way that they were winning last year, then people are going to dock Jokic for that. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander definitely belongs in the conversation. And I think he is very much likely to get consideration at the end of the year because he's a novel case, right? He was top 5 considered last year. He's a guard. People are going to be talking about it because it's a novelty throughout the rest of the season. Like Thunder are winning. Shai's playing amazing. Like does he deserve consideration? And the answer is going to be yes. Like there will be like a groundswell of people saying that out loud. So just be prepared for that. Embiid's case is a little tenuous because number one, he fell apart in the playoffs last year to the tune of not getting out of the second round. People could hold that against him. And number two, he's missed some games. And he is absolutely a candidate to miss enough games to where people are going to hold that against him. And so ultimately, I'm probably against Embiid in this market, even though I completely acknowledge what he's doing is unbelievable. He just needs to be healthy basically for the rest of the season to make it happen. And I don't know that the Sixers are really. I mean, are they going to play for that way, or are they going to try to keep him healthy for the playoffs because he got his MVP last year? So, I think I could see the Sixers exercising more caution with Embiid and him not getting the qualifying number of starts to get the award, which is why I'm going to stay away from him in this market. The name I kind of want to bandy about and get your opinion on, who has been the fastest riser in the last week, is Giannis Antetokounmpo. If this comes down to being a 3-horse race between Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis, which it was all year last year, or Jokic, SGA, and Giannis, I could see there being a clear case if Giannis gets the ones, climbs back into the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Right now, they're 3 games behind Boston, but they're playing phenomenally well. His, he's number 2, or excuse me, he's number 3 in Darko right now after Jokic and Embiid. He's number 3 in EPM after Embiid and SGA, but his trajectory is on the come up. And now that he has Dame to kind of take some of the offensive load and crunch time off of his shoulders, he can, potentially even, bolster some of his defensive kind of candidacy, with end of games, kind of stops. So, yeah, I think Giannis is coming 8-1. I don't mind that bet at all. And I think basically everyone besides those 4 names is drawing dead. That includes Luka. That includes Tatum. Like, their teams just aren't having good enough seasons to put them in consideration. And then everyone lower than that on the list, even though, they may have highs and lows here and there throughout the season. Anthony Edwards, Durant, Fox, Booker, Halliburton, Kawhi, Curry, Davis. You can pretty much put a line through all those guys because they just haven't done enough to this point to get into the mind of the voter.
Yeah, no, I'm in 100% agreement with you. I think there might be some voter fatigue with the center position. I wanted to ask you if you remember who the last guard was to win MVP.
Was it Steph?
No. 2 people,
wasn't?
2 guards went after Steph.
2 guards went after Steph, huh?
And they're on the same team now.
Oh, wow. No, I don't know. Who we
Russell Westbrook and then James Harden.
Oh, man.
2017 and 2018.
How do I forget
those
about
were
those?
The last.
Yeah.
We've had Giannis 2019, 2020. Then we have Joker back-to-back.
I forgot Russ was on the Clippers, I'll be honest with you. And I watched that Clippers game last night very intently because I had Clippers -6.
Right. He didn't play as much the past few games because they got some Zubac got injured. So now they're running Plumlee and Tice out there, which you can't have Westbrook on the floor with those guys at the same time. That doesn't make much sense.
Correct.
Another fun question
22
for
minutes
you.
last night, and I missed all of them.
Yeah. I was about to say it didn't much factor. Do you remember the last time that a center was voted MVP 4 seasons in a row?
Oh, sheesh.
Better question would be, were you alive? Would be probably the better question.
Was it the 70s?
Yes, it was.
Oh, man. Was it like Kareem, Wilt,
Kareem, Bill Walton, Moses Malone, Kareem.
Okay.
That was the last 4-year span of centers.
So
SGA is looking better and better by the day, in my opinion, Drew.
No, it's like you get it. Like people get tired of talking about the same thing. And last year's MVP conversation got so toxic and was so loud that if people really want a different tone and decide that it's SGA this year, could they get the ones? Thunder need the 1 seed in the West to make it happen. But shoot, they can get it, man. Like the Thunder are playing The Thunder are at the tail end of the most difficult part of their schedule in terms of fatigue, and they are still competing. They are still right there. Once they get to the more friendly part of their schedule, and as their kind of young group continues to come together, Thunder are going to be tough to beat in the regular season. So I could see OKC getting the 1. I could see him, being the clear favorite in that discussion if we get there.
Yeah, I think he's certainly my best bet right now. I've been eyeing up this market, trying to figure out who I'm going to place a bet on before this trade deadline happens. And SGA is looking better and better by the day, but I will agree with you. If I'm looking outside the top 3, Giannis is probably the play. And I hate to say that because I'm pretty sure it was last week, Drew. I said I'm out on the Bucks completely. Then they smack up the Celtics. They go to war with the Warriors, and then they beat the Kings in OT. All of a sudden, Milwaukee's back, baby. So we will keep that on my list of things to watch too, because I might be getting a Giannis MVP ticket along with you. Best bet or favorite thing to look forward to from the show today, whether it's the divisional round matchups, the props, or game picks, or MVP.
I'm going to go with Bills' lowest scoring team, 10-1. That's a big number. That's a huge
Yeah.
number. I'm just not inspired with what they're doing right now offensively. And I'll be completely honest, I'm pretty bought in on the Chiefs defense. These guys look legit. They're playing great and they're healthy.
Yeah. I'll join you on that one, man. Even some lunch money, $10 to win 100 on the Bills to be the lowest scoring team. I will take that shot all day long, my friend. Josh Allen and company, chaotic offense. And by the way, Drew, when you're up 21-0 with under 2 minutes left in the first half and you have the option to kick a 56-yard field goal or punt, you punt. You go half up 21-0, all right? No one's going 90 yards on you. Definitely not Mason Rudolph. So you got to make better decisions, man. You can't do it against Andy Reid. My favorite play and my biggest bet from the weekend is going to be Aaron Jones under the 71.5 rushing yards.
Cool.
I love a good sell high spot, so I'm going to go ahead and take that one. And I also really like the Lions look for high scoring team along with you. So that's all we got for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed all the NFL and NBA talk. Hopefully you have a profitable night and weekend. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for all your info to help you out with your wagers and fantasy. Drop a like, subscribe for the Well Capper and V Money Sports. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Adam, to our producers. And thank you to the viewers and listeners for hanging out with us. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your week.